Hello, welcome to another Geordie Wings video. Today is the first video of a series of videos I'm going to do on VFR flight. I'm going to do a UK tour. I'll start off with the Cessna 152, but I may use other aircraft as we go around the UK. Today, leg one, we're going to go from Newcastle, Echo Golf November Tango, down to Teesside, Echo Golf November Victor. I know Microsoft Flight Sim 2020 ATC, the default ATC is a little limited, so we'll use it anyway, and we'll just sort of go with this. I want to try and pay attention to things like airspaces and things of that nature. So anyway, let's get on the runway. First of all, asking for permission. I've asked for a southerly departure.
Newcastle Tower, Cessna Sierra Golf 70 at runway 25 ready for departure, south departure.
Cessna Sierra Golf 70, wind 211 at 6. Departure to the south approved. Cleared for takeoff runway 25.
Okay, so there's our clearance, so we'll get on the runway. Now I'd like to point out, I am not a real world pilot, and I'm going to try and stick to the procedures as best as I understand them. But if there are any real world pilots, or indeed any flight simmers,
did you hear my last transmission?
Yeah, I need to start replying to the radios.
Cleared for takeoff runway 25 Cessna Golf 70.
Yeah, as I was saying, what I'd like possibly is any real world pilots or any flight simmers who have a bit more experience than myself in VFR flying to point out anything that I'm doing wrong as we go around. So I'll talk about the route that we're going to do as we fly. So leg one, we're going to take off. The cruising altitude for today's flight I have planned is 2,500 feet, and the first leg is going to see us to turn to the left to head south, and the first waypoint reference point we have is going to be the bridges over the River Tyne. So there's Newcastle Airport. We're going to come out, turn to the left, and head a 5 nautical mile journey down to the bridges for our waypoint number 1. So let's get this thing going. We're going to aim initially until we get clearance to head south for the pattern altitude of 1,000 feet above ground level, which will be about 1,250 feet, something like that. So we're airborne, let's get trimmed. Okay, it took a little bit of time to get that thing trimmed out there, but we're climbing now, looking for about an 80 knot.
Cessna Golf 70, continue for south departure.
Right, there's our clearance to head south. So the heading is 148 degrees, and we're flying for about 5 miles to get to the bridges over the River Tyne. Now, because we've now been given clearance to continue on our way, I'm no longer aiming for the pattern altitude, I'm aiming for my cruise altitude of 2,500 feet. And I want an 80 knot climb out.
Cessna Golf 70, acknowledge last transmission.
Gotta get better at this, talking to the tower.
Newcastle Tower, Cessna Sierra Golf 70, continue for south departure.
But this is the reason why I'm doing this round the UK tour. I'd like to think that by the time I get back to Newcastle, I'm a damn sight better at VFR procedures than I am at present. That's kind of the whole point of this. And I guess the first thing I can do is start talking and replying to air traffic. Quite a steep climb there, wasn't it? I want about 80 knots climb out, so I'm just trying to trim out for that. Now, where's our bridges? Now, that white building that you see in front, just there on the nose, that's St James's Park, the football stadium. which means just to the south of that is the River Tyne and the bridges that we're aiming for our waypoint number 1. The wind is pushing me around a little bit, trying to hold 148 degrees. Coming up on 2,000 feet, and we're aiming for a cruise altitude of 2,500 feet. So it's been a little bit rough and ready so far, but we're getting there. There's the River Tyne out in front, there's the football stadium, and there's the bridges just here. So a little turn to the right needed just to correct our track. When we do get to our cruise altitude, which we're about to come up on, I'm going to reduce our RPMs to about 2,400 RPM. Allow the nose to settle down, and then we'll trim out for a cruise of 100 knots. Keep a check on our waypoints. There's the bridges just in front.
Cessna Golf 70, leaving my airspace frequency change approved.
Okay, so I'll reply to that.
Newcastle Tower Cessna Sierra Golf 70 frequency change. Newcastle approach Cessna Sierra Golf 70 is type Cessna 152.5 miles southeast of Newcastle, 2,600 feet. Request flight following.
Right.
Cessna Sierra Golf 70 Newcastle approach. Squawk 2106.
Okay, change our squawk.
Squawk 2106 Cessna Golf 70.
Now we
Golf
have.
70 radar contact.
Can I get a word in
5
edgeways?
miles southeast of Newcastle, 2,600 feet. Altimeter 30.09er.
Now we've just left the main Class D airspace at Newcastle Airport, but we are still in Class D, but it has a base of 3,000 feet. So technically speaking, because we're at 2,500 feet, we are no longer in Class D airspace, but we do have flight following, so we still have air traffic service.
Cessna Golf 70, please acknowledge.
Roger Cessna Golf 70.
Now, because I've spent a lot of time talking to air traffic there, I've passed the waypoint, so I need to get onto leg 2, sharpish. We're going to turn to 156 degrees, and we're heading for our next waypoint, which I'm going to tell you about in a second. Okay, so we've just left the bridges, waypoint 1, and we're heading down to waypoint 2. Now this area is where the A1 dual carriageway and the A194 dual carriageway merge into the A1 South, which is at Washington Services. So that's the next thing we're looking for. It's a leg of 4.2 miles, which will just take 3 minutes. So it shouldn't be long. Now, I do believe that's the A1 coming down there, and that is the A194 there. That's our merge point there. Because we were talking a lot to air traffic, I didn't exactly get myself on track properly, and I've allowed myself to climb a little bit as well. So we'll correct that. So there's the A194, there's the A1, and where they merge here, this is the Washington Services area, so that is our next waypoint, waypoint 2. We're just a little bit on the high side. I'm just going to pull back a little bit of power to let that descend a little bit. And we can talk about the next waypoint, which is waypoint 3, which is only a couple of miles further to the south. Oops, I'm turning a little bit there. And we're going to be using the Durham County Cricket Club as the next waypoint, which is there, the Riverside, and it has an athletics track immediately alongside of it. So that is going to be our waypoint 3, and it's pretty much the same heading, 175 degrees. So we're pretty much on. So there's the A1 Washington Services just to our right. The wind is pushing us a bit. I'm going to correct ourselves a little bit there. I'm basically coming alongside the A1 for a few miles, which is where the cricket ground sits at. Now I do believe that's it there. Which means if we want to fly alongside it, I need to correct our track a little bit. It's a lovely day to go and fly. This is live weather, by the way. I always fly in live weather. So if I find that the weather's not VFR, then I'll not be flying. Yep, there's the cricket ground there and the athletics track alongside. When we get there, we're going to turn for a slightly longer leg 4, which is a distance of 9 nautical miles. Which will take about 6 minutes, and I'll tell you what our destination is in a second. It'll be on a heading of 166 degrees. So there we are, Durham County Cricket Club, Riverside Stadium, and its running track alongside. So we're going to turn to 166 degrees, maintain 2,500 feet, which I'm a little bit on the high side. Slightly overshot that. Bring that back to 166. Okay. Right, the next waypoint we are looking for is a pair of quarries, which are these two here. Thrislington Quarry, which will be on our right, and Garman's Way Quarry, which will be on our left, and we're going to pass right through the centre of them. Now I've chosen these two waypoints because quarries tend to stand out quite well because they're a completely different colour to the green fields that are around them. So we're holding 166 degrees and the leg should take about 6 minutes, which will probably be done about 1 minute. Still following the track of the A1 heading south. The A1 actually, when it gets down to the quarries, just cuts through ever so slightly the right hand quarry. So as long as we stay quite close to the A1, shouldn't go too far wrong. Now, if we look ahead, I think that is the larger of the two quarries and that is the smaller of the two, and we're going to pass right through the centre. I do believe that's them there. Still allow myself to climb a little bit. I'm going to take a bit more trim down.
Cessna Golf 70 contact, Teesside approach on 118.855. Good day.
Okay, we're on the verge of entering Teesside approach, Class D airspace.
118.855 Cessna Golf 70. Goodbye.
So we will contact them as instructed. Teesside approach.
Teesside approach Cessna Sierra Golf 70, 2,700 feet.
Cessna Sierra Golf 70 Teesside approach altimeter 30.10 radar contact, continue.
Okay, so that's what's checked in with Teesside, which if I show you on the map, if I bring up the airspaces, Teesside approach begins there, that blue area there. We're not quite there yet, so we're heading for waypoint 4, but we've checked in plenty of time. Now as you can see in front, they are the quarries that we're looking for. There's the smaller one and there's the larger one to the right. We're going to pass right through the centre. And And just to confirm, the A1, which runs alongside, that's the A1 there. Sorry, no, that's the A1 there, and it runs through the right-hand quarry. So like I said at the start of the video, I'm not terribly experienced with VFR flying. I'm not a real-world pilot. Please, in the comments below, if you can offer any advice, anything I'm doing wrong, please don't be afraid to let me know. The idea is, by the time I get back to Newcastle after this UK tour, I'll be a lot better at VFR flying than what I was when I set off. That's the general plan. It's one of the reasons why I've also chose to use the Cessna 152. There's no glass cockpits, there's no GPS. I'm flying with my eyeballs outside the window. There's not a lot of VORs up in the northeast of England, NDBs, that sort of thing. But when we get further down south, there may well be a lot more chances to use radio navigation. So we'll bring the VOR needles and what have you into play. Anyway, we are about to arrive at waypoint 4, which is our quarries, and after that we are getting ready for arrival into the terminal area of Teesside Airport. So here's our quarries. That's the larger of the two. What do we call again? Garmin's Way on my left, and to the right is the Thrislington quarry. So that's just now passing right through the centre of them as I intended. I'm now going to turn to 156 degrees. 3 nautical miles away is the town of Sedgefield. And my altitude has come down too much. I need to control that a lot better as well as I do this tour. 156 degrees. Now on the nose should be the town of Sedgefield, which is just there on the nose. Now what I can also now do is, as we're approaching the Class D airspace, I'll also start preparing, getting instructions for landing. Actually, I do believe that is Sedgefield there off to my right, so I'm going to make a little quick course correction. Now when I get to Sedgefield, I am 8.8 nautical miles away from the airport. And incidentally, once I get to Sedgefield, I am only just a couple of miles away from the Class D airspace of the approach area. Okay, so what I'm going to do now, I'm going to look for my nearest airport, Durham Tees Valley, and we'll get the weather check.
Teesside Airport information, Sierra 110 Zulu. Wind 190 at 10. Visibility 6. Sky condition, few clouds at 2,600 feet, few clouds at 4,800 feet, 13,700 feet scattered. Temperature 10. Dew point 10. Altimeter tree 0.12. ILS runway 23 in use. Landing and departing runway 23. VFR aircraft say direction of flight. All aircraft read back hold short instructions. Advise controller on initial contact you have Sierra.
Okay, information Sierra, we're landing on runway 23. So what we'll do now is we will ask for permission to land.
Teesside Tower Cessna Sierra Golf 70 is 8 miles north, 2,200 feet with Tango to land.
Cessna Sierra Golf 70 Teesside Tower. Altimeter 30.12, wind 190 at 10. Enter left base runway 23.
Make left base runway 23 Cessna Golf 70.
Okay, so we're entering left base 23, the westerly runway. Now the problem that gives us is we're coming in from that direction, so we're going to have to do a circuit of the airfield to enter the base on a left-hand turn. If we went straight in for a 2-3, we'll be entering on a right base, and that is not what they have asked for. So what we'll have to do is firstly get our bearings for the airfield. Now this square feature here is a reservoir, which I'm going to aim for, which is there. You can just make out there in front. So I'm going to aim for that as a first reference point. That's going to get us right on the edge of the airfield area. And because we're entering the traffic pattern, which is 1,000 feet above ground level, and the field elevation at Teesside Airport is 210 feet. So we need to be circling the airport in the traffic pattern at 1,210 feet. So I need to start thinking about a descent.
Cessna Golf 70, wind 190 at 10. Clear to land runway 23.
Okay, so we have our clearance quite early.
Clear to land runway 23 Cessna Golf 70.
Did I announce my intention to land there too early? Is that why I've been given clearance to land too early? If anything you can add, please put that in the comments below. So I'm going to start a gentle descent to pattern altitude. So I need to lose about 1,000 or so feet. There's our square reservoir right in front. It's a little bit hazy now, so I need to get down anyway, because could be pushing the VFR VMC, the meteorological conditions or whatever it's called. I need to get better visibility. You should have 5K visibility, which if I was to continue at this altitude I think I would lose. However, the airfield should be directly in front. I can't quite see it because of the haze at this altitude, so hopefully it'll come into view pretty soon. So what I'm going to do, because I've got to enter the traffic pattern, I'm going to enter the traffic pattern around about the threshold of what will be runway 06. And I'll be entering on the crosswind leg to come round to a left base to enter runway 23. There's our square reservoir, coming up to 1,700 feet. That is our airport right there, those buildings there, and I do believe that's the runway threshold around about there. Now I'm coming up to the pattern altitude of 1,200 feet, so I'm going to bring a little bit more power back in just to arrest that descent. It's quite a bit more hazy down here than it was at Newcastle. There is our airport. There's our pattern altitude, 1,200 feet. I don't want to descend any further than that, so bring the power back in. And trim out to hold that. Yeah, that's our threshold there. So once we are in line with that, we will turn onto the crosswind leg. And I want to think about slowing down towards 80 knots, but yet maintaining 1,200 feet. Sorry, 1,200 feet. So I'll pull back a bit of power, but as the aircraft wants to descend, add a bit of trim. Because the aircraft wants to settle a little bit. Okay, there's our threshold, so I'm going to turn to our crosswind leg. It is 80 knots, 1200 feet, so let's trim out for that. Okay, so that's just now on our crosswind leg. Holding that 1200 feet. And we'll hold this for a short while before turning left onto the downwind leg. Wait until the runway is about 45 degrees back from us. Now we've already got our clearance to land, so we don't need to check in with tower anymore. Unless of course they contact us for whatever reason. I think that's probably about right. So we'll turn on the heading of 06, which will be the reciprocal heading of our runway 23. Okay, so where are we? 80 knots, there or thereabouts. 1200 feet. Let's retrim that because I've got a different... The thing when you change heading quite dramatically is the wind is hitting your aeroplane differently, so trim is constantly having to be adjusted. But we're looking good. 060 degrees, level flight, 1200 feet. There's our airfield across there, just crossing level with the threshold there. We need to hold this heading until the threshold is 45 degrees back from our aircraft, which is not yet. But it's not far off. What do you say about there? I'd say about there. Okay, so we're about to turn to base leg, and at the same time I'm wanting to lose some altitude. So we'll throttle back just a little bit, allow the aircraft nose to drop a little bit, no more than 500 feet per minute. So we'll trim for that. That's us now on base leg. Now to help with the next turn, I'm going to draw out an extended centre line in front of the aeroplane, because when I put my turn to the left in, that high wing of a Cessna is going to block my view of the runway. 80 knots. I need to get down to about 500 feet. I'm actually going to bring in my first notch of flaps as well, because it's a little hard to control at the moment. And I think it's about time to put in our turn to final. I didn't get it too bad. Okay, 500 feet per minute descent. The airfield sits at 210 feet above sea level, so we're not too bad at the moment. Need to lose a bit more speed. I want about a 60 knot approach, so I'm taking the power out, and as the speed comes down we'll bring in more flaps. Pappies has given us 3 whites, 1 red, so that's not too bad. We've got a nice long runway in front. It's only a Cessna, shouldn't be a problem. Second notch of flaps. That adds more drag and the speed's really rolling off there now, so keep an eye on that. I don't want to drop below 60. 3 reds on the pappy, so I'm descending a little bit too much there. Put a bit more power in. 60 knots. Full flaps. Back on the pappies. 2 whites, 2 reds. Get back up to 60 knots. Right on the centre line. Looking good. Throttle out, hold the aircraft off, hold it off, nice and gentle.
Cessna Golf 70 exit runway when able.
Okay, flaps up. The exit taxiway is just up on the right. And welcome to Teesside Airport. Okay, that's leg 1 complete of this UK tour. Not perfect by any stretch of the imagination, but that's the whole point. To get better at VFR flying, and the best way to do that is to get out there and do some VFR flying.
70 contact ground on 119.805.
Going to 119.805 Cessna Golf 70. Teesside ground Cessna Sierra Golf 70 taxi to parking.
Cessna Sierra Golf 70 taxi to general aviation parking using taxiway Bravo Delta Alpha.
Taxiway Bravo Delta Alpha. Wait till I check my charts. We have just left the runway here, which is Bravo. The main apron is Delta, Alpha's to the right. So off the taxiway, onto the main apron and turn right. Yes, yes, yes. Okay.
Taxiing to general aviation parking via taxiway Bravo Delta Alpha Cessna Golf 70.
So Bravo, we're on. Delta is the main apron, and just to the right is Alpha. And there's some good looking parking spaces just up on the right, so I think we'll stick it in there. They're as good as any. There's no ground crew waiting for us, so we'll just stick it in here. Okay, there's the first one done. I hope you enjoyed that. Like I said at the start, please, if there's anything, any comments you want to pass on to help me improve my VFR flying, please put that in the comments below. And I look forward to seeing the next video. I don't know quite where we're going yet, but we're going to continue heading south, probably towards the Leeds area, something like that. And I'll see if I can get that done over the next coming days. Thanks very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.